VGK blows a 2-goal lead versus the Ontario Reign. The LA Kings.
No, it's the Ontario Reign. Definitely the Ontario Reign.
And they lost 4-3 in the preseason home opener. We recap the game coming up next right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Find us wherever you get your podcast. Also, find us on X at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G, at Locked On VGK, and subscribe to the YouTube channel that is Locked On Golden Knights. Chris, I thought you said that each team has to play 8 NHL veterans. And VGK wound up playing the Ontario Reign last night. Golden Knights blowing a 3-1 lead. Akil Thomas of the Kings/Reign scored the hat trick last night. Tyler Madden won it in overtime, 29 seconds remaining there. And Bruce Cassidy was not pleased that his team blew that 2-goal lead.
Yeah, I wanted to find really fast here. I'm digging up the exact pregame or the exact preseason rules. So, all right, so minimum of 8 vets, and then it's a forward or defenseman that's played 30 NHL games during the previous season. A goaltender. I'm gonna look at this in a second. Okay. A goaltender who either dressed in 50 or more NHL games played or 30 the previous season. A first round pick from the most recent draft, or 100 total NHL games. So we were talking about this upstairs yesterday, and I don't think Hooden's got 134 games, and then no one else even hits the games played threshold besides Connaughton. I hope I said that name right.
Yeah, Connaughton. Yeah.
And then Santini as well. So that's 3 players. I don't think they had 4 first-round draft picks out there. Unless one of the goalies. No, the goalies didn't hit it. So the only thing that we assumed was because the team was the Kings was in Australia. They had to have a waiver for that game, which created an interesting circumstance last night because you have, a lot of the players that are looking to make impressions, either to stay with the Kings potentially. There's literally one player on last night's game, Brant Clark, who we think is actually competing for an NHL roster spot right now. The rest of the players are, just kind of there filling spots, so to speak, going to be with Ontario or even ECHL clubs, come as soon as this weekend. But it created an interesting dynamic because you had the Kings/Ontario Reign/ whatever their ECHL team is. They're pushing the envelope pretty hard, and we're going to talk about the Mark Stonehead more in this second segment, of course. But you saw the Golden Knights vets, when they turned it on, they moved the puck really well. But they weren't on the whole time. They were, you could tell the vets treated this as a preseason game, whereas the Kings/Ontario Reign players treated this as Game 7 of the Calder Cup Finals.
Right.
They should, to be fair. I'm not knocking them for it. I'm not knocking them.
We talked about that. And so did Cassidy in the post game about the danger of playing your veterans. You want them to go up and down the ice, get some work in, get some repetitions, but then they're playing against teams, and we saw it the previous night there, a couple of nights before, in Colorado, where the Avalanche players played a physical game. They're all vying for jobs, and there's a lot of hitting, physicality, and such.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Golden Knights is a veteran team, and they know what to do and when to do it as the season progresses. We saw this last year. We saw this with a number of players. The Golden Knights came out, shot out of a cannon to start the previous season. Middle third, some injuries and some poor play. But then obviously the vets all figured it out, for when it mattered, basically come February through obviously the Stanley Cup parade this past June. And how this applies to a preseason game in the end of September, a week and a half before the regular season starts. Well, like Cassidy said, you got to get them out there. They got to get their reps. They got to have their game speed. And if you don't play people in the preseason, it's going to set them up for a worse failure because they're going right from practice playing at 45% to all of a sudden giving it their all in games that matter, and that's when injuries happen or poor play happens, bad timing, etc., 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 etc.
Brendan Brisson had the opportunity to play with a couple of pros and did pretty well. He had that goal, and he started alongside the top liners, Eichel and Marcia. So I thought it might be Barbashev last night, but close call. Okay. Close call, Barbashev. Close. That was bad.
I'm too tired to even get the side right now.
I know. It's bad.
No, it's pretty good, actually.
Okay. What did you think?
I mean, it's tough to measure anything from this game because the top two lines were NHL players playing against, AHLers, ECHLers, etc. But when the top two lines were out there, it was a significantly different game. You saw their gap control differently. You saw the crisp passing. You saw just Stone and Marchessault just taking turns picking the pockets of the players on the Kings last night. And if they would have applied themselves to like an 80% of an NHL game speed, the Golden Knights, at least the top two lines, would have put up 6 or 7 goals last night, but they didn't. And they don't need to do that. I mean, to be completely fair, it's about the timing. It's about getting the breakouts done and et cetera, et cetera. But back to Brisson, I did like his game. He found open space out there. And I mean, that open space might have come courtesy of the Kings defense collapsing, of course, on Marchessault and Eichel, but they were finding Brisson early and often in the game. And you can see that it felt like they were trying to feed Brisson last night. They wanted to, get his finishing ability going and stuff. And it's good to see Cassidy taking this shot because the Golden Knights are not breaking camp with Brendan Brisson on the top line unless some crazy injuries happen, which could happen in Vegas. Yeah. But later in the season, there's certainly an opportunity. You could see Brisson up on the top line because let's face it, that's where he has the lowest amounts of liability because Eichel obviously is improving as a two-way player and Marchessault can handle himself on both sides of the ice just fine.
You asked the question of Cassidy about the two-way playerness of Jack Eichel and that he played on the penalty kill, and we're going to see more of that. We kind of anticipated that, didn't we, during the offseason anyway?
Yeah, I mean, Riley Smith's void, if you will, leaves a huge gap all over the ice, but, the penalty kill was one of his biggest areas of responsibility. I think Cassidy made a comment about the different, shots and stuff like that, but it was noticeable how often Eichel was out there on the kill, and there's no better time, obviously, to do it than right now, and we'll see if that continues once the regular season starts. I think the plan is to definitely improve Eichel's penalty kill time, but Cassidy also mentioned what's the sacrifice if you do that, because you're taking away some meaningful, minutes and fatigue and stuff like that, and he's out there killing a penalty. So there's the give and take right there. That said, I think you are going to see Cassidy wanting to roll all four lines as much as possible, especially early in the season, which can allow Eichel to get more time on the kill. But, as the games increase in importance as the season progresses, you might see Cassidy get away with that if he feels he needs Eichel's scoring ability to be out there more instead of him killing penalties.
I thought we might have seen on the power play opportunity, maybe a difference there with the power play. I felt, and we've talked about this in the past, Dominic Ducharme's influence, I felt, of putting all of your best players on the power play. So that one power play unit had Stone and Stevenson. Marchessault was out there. Eichel was out there, and Pietrangelo. So you're putting some really good players out there and a lot of firepower on the power play. And that could be the influence that we spoke of that Ducharme did in Montreal.
That could be, and I'm fine with that once the regular season gets going. And you see that model work, of course, in Edmonton. That's maybe more the McDavid effect. But still, point being is there are a lot of teams that are going with a power play 1. And then their next power play unit's not power play 2. It's about power play 12 because the spread is 12-1 and how many minutes the first power play unit gets. If there's something I'm going to question from last night's game being a preseason game, I'll start by saying, why is Brisson not a part of that top power play unit? A huge part of Brisson's potential regular season value comes for his ability to score power play goals, number one. And number two, back to the point about the first power play getting long shifts. They were getting long shifts last night. I counted over a 90-second shift before players actually went out on one of the Vegas Golden Knights power plays. And I don't know if that's necessary in the preseason. Obviously, if these coaches who make these 7-figure salaries, if they feel it's that's the way to do it, they know more than I do about it. But I would have liked to see Brisson out there. There's a good chunk of power plays for the Golden Knights last night. It would have been nice to see Brisson get an opportunity, a sustained opportunity, there it is, Tony, sustainability, a sustained power play. Just another quick takeaway here. Comtois being on the third line with Ron Bjerg and Morelli, was it? Or was he defenseman?
Yeah, I thought Morelli was.
I got this. I'll check when I turn it to you in a second. But Comtois being on that third line, I don't know what the possible takeaway from this game could have been. Like, what could Comtois have shown Cassidy last night? Because that third line didn't sustain a lot of pressure. They were just kind of out there pacing up and back, so to speak. But Cassidy did also mention in the post game that we'll probably see Comtois Friday night. And could this be and William Karlsson? I mean, this is all of a sudden becoming a mystery.
We won't see Karlsson. Karlsson's injured.
Apparently
not.
They were talking about it in the post game a lot. Like, it seems like he might be coming back.
Okay.
Ryan Wallace was mentioning that, but I mean, obviously that's all hearsay. We'll see until Friday comes. But point being is, maybe this is where we do see a line of William Karlsson, assuming he makes his debut, with Comtois and Michael Amadio. That would be interesting to see, because that's obviously Comtois just going directly to Riley Smith's old spot.
One thing that really does tweak South Beach Bruce and Cassidy, I should say, is the fact that, and gets them to start to sway, is when the younger players lose puck battles. He talked about that in length last night as well, right after the game. And one of the areas that he says young players typically just don't go after the loose puck against the boards. Sounds pretty simple, but hopefully this is something they clean up now with Ryan Craig on the minor league level.
Yeah, no, that's certainly important. I mean, if you had $1 for every time Cassidy mentioned winning your puck battles and winning your races, you would be a millionaire by, by November. I mean, that's how important it is to Cassidy and how often he mentions it. And it's such an elementary perspective. It really is, right? It is, the simplest of the ways to break down an important aspect of the game. But you win those puck battles, you win your races, you get scoring opportunities, you win hockey games. It's really that simple. Jacob Brabranic, he was centering the line with Comtois and Ron Bjerg last night. And Ronberg had a penalty shot last night. I just thought about that. It was
that he blew it.
He blew it, Tony. That was terrible. I can't believe he blew a penalty shot in the preseason there. But I mean, talk about a game that had a little bit of everything last night, from the scuffle we're going to talk about, to the penalty shot, to the late drama, to overtime, and almost
Chandler
a shootout.
Stevenson hitting the post. Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson rocketed one off the post there, and he had a lot of great chances. I mean, the overtime was interesting. It was sloppy, it was choppy, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that Cassidy even decided to put the vets out there. But I guess you got to play some of them, because half of the forward lines were vet heavy. So I mean, it's preseason. The score is pretty irrelevant. But you read between the lines some of the takeaways, and starting to get some hints about the direction the team is going to be going when they break camp.
I thought that Logan Thompson should have played some more last night. If not, why not Logan Thompson for a complete game? I'm hoping that they play him for a full game, as Aiden Hill went the distance last night and played the entire game, plus the overtime. He stopped 20 on 28 shots. He stopped 24 attempts and gave up the 4 goals. I don't know why they played him the entire game. And 2 of the 4 goals, he gave up deflections. And at one point, he did stop 14 consecutive shots and looked pretty sharp. at the beginning of the game through maybe the midway plus point of the second period.
Yeah, Aiden was fine last night. He had a good flurry of saves near the end of the game after the Kings tied the game before overtime started. The Kings were buzzing, and we're kind of like, okay, upstairs, like, all right, someone scores so we don't have to go to overtime in a preseason game. But
18-round shootout. I was begging for that.
Yeah,
Put you guys
yeah.
through some more misery over there.
Yeah, Carp was busting our chops about that too. He brought up, I think, the long, crazy shootout game last year you kept talking about too. So, it's fun. It's good to see T-Mobile. Great crowd last night. Great crowd, especially
Were there
for a
really
preseason
17,000 fans there?
I posted a video of the crowd, and there was honestly, Tony,
I counted about 15,971.
Perfect.
Based on your video.
Right. But point being is, Tony, if you remember, I posted some videos like that last year during the regular season. And especially granted, we're, F1 and construction that's still happening and all of that. So we're going to take this with a grain of salt, of course. But I felt like last night's crowd actually exceeded some of the videos I took last season of some of the regular season games. So, credit to the locals wanting to come out and support. I mean, they were roaring every time they could, and hearing a Game Day Bruce, our announcer, hearing him referencing welcoming the Stanley Cup champion Golden Knights. That was pretty cool to hear that throughout the night. And, a lot of emotions triggered as you're walking back in the arena for the first time, seeing the jerseys, and, a little emotional thinking about the moment I had with Chris, obviously, my son, when the Golden Knights, when they won the Stanley Cup, and just seeing all that. I had two members of my hockey team there last night, actually. I gave one of my season tickets to one of the families, and then a friend of the program actually sent some tickets my way for someone on the hockey team. So a couple of my hockey teammates got to see the Golden Knights in action last night, and you bet I'm going to quiz them at our next practice on Monday night and see what they learned, and everything except the Mark Stone melee. But really fast here, I know you want to transition, right? Well, it's 17 minutes already. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So really quickly here, Chicago Power soccer game, indoor professional team going way, way back. We have an outing where all of the youth house league kids get to go watch a game. Mind you, a freaking brawl breaks out in an indoor soccer game. Like, people jump in the board, punching, like worse than really any hockey brawl, because they're not in skates, and just the mayhem breaks loose. So my dad, who was the coach at the time, asked like one of the players on the team, like, hey, what did you learn about the game today? Well, I didn't know you could punch people. So I hope my players didn't take that away. So take us to the next segment.
That's right. And that next segment is the dangerous hit on Mark Stone starts a melee. We'll talk about that when we return. Very lengthy first segment. Right after this on Locked On Golden Knights. Love the convenience of getting what you want right to your door. With DoorDash grocery delivery, you can stock up for the week or order last-minute cravings conveniently. That's right. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you will find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or we will make it right. So sit back, enjoy the quality groceries just like you pick them yourself. Want even more value? Then you can save on all of your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee. That's right, on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership. That's right, and with easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer service and support, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off of your first DoorDash order, up to a $20 value when you use the code LOCKED. And you can use that at checkout. Limited time offer. Terms apply. That's 50% off up to $20. No minimum subtotal and $0 delivery fees on your first order. Again, that is DoorDash. Welcome back. Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick, coming to you from Las Vegas, as we usually do, unless we haven't traveled much.
I think I was on location in Chicago once. I think you were on location in Mandalay Bay once.
I was, remember that, Mandalay Bay? That was awesome. I was, I was also at Park MGM one time.
Yeah,
And
that one
then
didn't work
last
out
year
too
we
well.
tried it with really bad internet when I was on the road traveling last summer, summer ago, not this past summer. In any event, thanks for making us your first listen, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel Locked On Golden Knights. And WTF is coming up tomorrow. That's the Friday. Make sure that you give us some of your heat, some more of those terrific comments. We got to talk about the dangerous hit by Hayden Hodgson on Mark Stone after Stone pretty much got rid of the puck. I felt it was a charging penalty upon first glance. I saw you going back and forth. The King fans the Rain fans were just on fire last night.
I was reading the tweets this morning.
The punches were thrown. The players from VGK came to his defense. Again, you know me, I'm a multimedia guy, and watching the game and listening, and they thought that Howden got hit with a cheap shot. No, Howden just jumped into the pile, started swinging away. I don't think he got hit with any
no holds
cheap
barred
shot.
at that point. I don't care what happened. It's no holds barred at that point, but yeah.
And then I felt really bad for Brandt Clark because Mark Stone squared up with him, grabbed him by the jersey.
Nothing to do with
and then that poor kid who's 22 years old trying to make his team and definitely not wanting to fight Mark Stone. And Stone had that look of fire. I was trying to read his lips. And
don't read his lips.
Okay, I don't want to say what he was saying, but no, he was really definitely ticked off. It was a pretty dirty, borderline hit. And Stone said that he wanted to grab like the most veteran-like player. The veteran's a 22-year-old player in Brandt Clark.
Yeah. So, all right, let's start with the hit here. I finally this morning saw the north-south angle. The only camera angle that they kept showing last night when it happened was the actual moment where Stone got throttled. He got crushed. He got laid out. Cassidy had a real interesting take on this too. We'll hit that after we break the hit down. So the north-south angle, first of all, Hodgson he's targeting Stone. Let's be clear about that, which is okay. You're allowed that.
He's trying to make the team.
That's what happens.
It was a charge. It would have been a charging penalty in my world.
But so here's the way a charging penalty works. And the way
it's got to be like 3 steps, and the guy in Stone got rid of the puck already.
As long as you are gliding the moment you make the hit, so you don't take that last step right as you're making the hit, it's not a charge. The player that hit Stone, both his feet are planted on the ice, and he was going fast, but he coasted into him and laid him out. So I think that takes the charge out of the equation. So there's 2 other penalties that you could possibly assess there. One is a rough, but it really doesn't apply in that circumstance because it's an open ice body check at that point. The only other penalty that's remaining is or an elbow or something, but there was definitely not an elbow involved there. So the last penalty is interference, possibly. Stone plays the puck. It takes a strange bounce. Stone is whacking at the puck with his backhand right as he gets just crushed. So it's a hit you don't want to see. Let's be clear. You don't want to see it. And it's a hit that I don't think Drew Doughty would have made, or Anze Kopitar, or any veteran that understands that this is a preseason game. All right. You have these kids out there trying to make a name for themselves. That's how many times we hear that in the post game. You have them not really understanding the difference of preseason and practice and regular season and AHL and ECHL. They're on the ice, they're playing, they're having fun. And, it's a hit you don't want to see, but the response was perfect. I mean, the game stops and every single player on the ice, I'm surprised Aiden Hill didn't want to get involved, but every single player on the ice wanted a piece of him. You had the melee break out, and then you have Stone just grabbing the first person he can see, and it's a 20-something-year-old nobody.
22, yeah.
Some of the comments were great here. This is Kings people chirping me, and it's fine. But just understand, I'm going to give it right back to them. So
some of them were funny and good.
Yeah, someone called Stone like a baby, and I said, listen, any other NHL captain's going to respond the same way when they get hit by a 27-year-old with 7 career games, right?
What I say. You know what I say too, though. I say that this is perhaps an indicator of what's to come. VGK will have a major target on their backs, and get used to this now, because the entire league is going to headhunt or do whatever they need to do to try to take down the Vegas Golden Knights. End of story.
Good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, because it's going to force the Golden Knights to be engaged. It's going to force the Golden Knights.
What are you saying? Bring up Joe Fleming?
Yeah, bring up Joe Fleming, right? Yeah, bring in Ogie Oglethorpe just to be safe. But point being is, it's not a bad thing if every single game that the Golden Knights play in this regular season is treated as a team trying to make a name for themselves. What happens when they play the Arizona Coyotes or the Columbus Blue Jackets, teams that are loaded with 24 and under year old players trying to make a name for themselves,
on Friday, if William Karlsson is on the ice, which I don't believe he will be,
this is going to be bad.
Against Arizona,
it's going to be bad.
How funny will that be after he blasted them at the victory celebration?
Oh.
He better be prepared.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if anyone in Arizona even remembers that, but yeah, who knows?
I think Arizona will.
I'd be curious to see if the Arizona PR team or their day of game production team had the stones, no pun intended, had the stones to put that on their mini tron. It's not a jumbotron because they play in a small arena. So if they put that on their mini tron as bulletin board material, there you go, Tony. That was good. But one of the fun interactions last night, Stone should have shown respect to the fringe player that hit him. And then I responded and said, maybe this is the year Hodgson actually becomes a fringe player, because he's a 27-year-old with 7 NHL games and 3 career points. So, Bruce Cassidy. So put a bow on this here, but Bruce Cassidy actually had a very strange comment. He mentioned that it was odd to see Stone in that place on the ice as a right winger. So basically, Cassidy says Stone was out of position and got blasted, and that's what happens. I don't know. I mean, Cassidy lacks. It's not what he said, but he basically did say Stone was out of position. He did say Stone was out of position. So Cassidy's filter is already off. In the first home media scrum of the preseason, which I'm okay with that. But is that really the best thing to say right there? I don't know. I don't know, but it's positive that Stone took the hit, got right up, didn't miss a shift. So, maybe his health is better than we anticipated. That's a good thing.
Honestly, I did see, and I was just trying to read his lips, and I watched it back a few times. I think he said, no, seriously, I think he said, I'm going to kill you, boy. And the look in Clark's eyes was that was priceless. He was petrified. Not petrified, but petrified. Coming up,
Pietrangelo took some liberties with him throughout the game.
He jumped back in there, and Marchessault just started to hit everything in sight after that, which I thought was kind of funny.
He was throwing elbows.
I know. Coming up next, we take a look at the status of Zach Whitecloud, who's injured. We'll talk about that when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. We are back. Locked On Golden Knights from Las Vegas. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick reporting. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Make sure that you check out What the Friday tomorrow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. What is the latest on Zach Whitecloud's condition? Something that we heard perhaps could be upper body sternum injury is what we've been hearing. I've been hearing, and I can report that so I don't get thrown out of the press box. In any event, what's his latest status?
Nothing. I mean, we were kind of talking about upstairs a little bit.
They said. More photos.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to right now. They're trying to figure this out. I mean, they probably know already, and they're just waiting for the right time to say as little as possible, because that's what happens with an NHL injuries, upper body, lower body, and going to miss some time day to day, week to week, month to month. I wonder how soon the Golden Knights in the NHL are required to offer injury designations, because week to week, I mean, we know what these we have an idea what these injury timetables mean, right? Day to day is 2 weeks, week to week is a month to month is 3 months. And we've gone through all of that, in the last 2 seasons with various Golden Knights players. So once Whitecloud's designation, if he even has a designation, maybe he's on back practicing today, and maybe he's in the game Friday night. Like Whitecloud had a pretty quick turnaround when we all thought he blew his knee out when Rupe Hintz fell on it in the playoffs last season.
Yeah.
So, Whitecloud's been through injuries before, and hopefully it's not what you're alluding to with the sternum. I haven't heard that yet, but we saw obviously Matthew Tkachuk. It kept a player out of a Stanley Cup final game. So, that's a big thing right there. If there is any type of sternum issue with Whitecloud, he's super important to this team, and everyone appreciates seeing him out there and everything, and definitely need him on the ice. But Ben Hutton, Hutton had a little razzle dazzle last night. It took us 30 minutes to even mention Ben Hutton, but Hutton had actually a really strong game. So, and was laughing about his spinorama and the post game presser and everything. And Hutton's such a gem to talk to. He's just so relaxed and just a kid in a candy shop in the NHL, right?
Yeah, one thing that VGK has got to do, I said last night, I thought that they would put more shots on goal and be more consistent with their play. The Colorado game, right? I don't know what they wound up shots on goal.
14 to 23. Game, I remember that. It was bad.
What was it?
Vegas only had 14 to 23 shots or something like that.
Yeah. But the other thing that concerns me are these major droughts. So 16 minutes plus, I think, in Colorado. Last night, there was that span of 10:40, I think, without a shot on goal that took them into the third period. And so that's something I think they want to be more consistent with. Obviously, you want to put shots on the net. And I think that that's something that will concern over time Bruce Cassidy as well. He'll start.
We've talked about shots on goal. This goes back to the Pete DeBoer era with firing 46 shots on net, but generating 4 quality scoring chances the entire game.
Yeah, from the outside, right? All those perimeter shots.
Yeah, just basically getting puck marks on the other goalie's crest, on their logo on their jersey. Like that's all those shots are good for, is dirtying up the other team's goalies. So, it's tough. Let's see what happens, especially if the Golden Knights do roll a game with 3 lines of veterans and have that sustained, there it is again, that sustained pressure throughout the game. Getting outshot by the Ontario Reign last night, 26-28. I don't like that, but again, the vets know when to turn it on, and the temperature, the focus was lost for about 6 minutes in the second period to see if they can all get a piece of. There was a time where they were just hitting everything, not just Hodgson, but everything they could, and it was the only question I'm going to go back to last night's game here. I know we're talking about Whitecloud, but no one challenged Hodgson. No one, I know I'm saying his name right. Maybe they talk about the guy after the show, but
Hodgson.
Okay, whatever. 7 games, 3 points. Got it.
He's a veteran. He qualified as a veteran last night.
7 guys. He was probably the 3rd most senior veteran on the team, but why does no one challenge him? Why did no one drop the gloves with him? That's the only question. You had it like Max Comtois. What a great spot for Comtois to make a name for himself last night. I think that was honestly a missed opportunity by Comtois just to get recognized in the post-game presser by Cassidy for the team standing up for each other. If Kolesar's in that game last night, Hodgson doesn't last.
Hodgepodge.
He doesn't get past 2 shifts without Kolesar
acknowledging what happened. Wait. What was the Stone quote? It's probably the last time I'll ever play against him.
Yeah.
He's not a good player or something like that.
Yeah, it was Stone. The post game was just an absolute gem from Mark Stone. It was so amazing. It was
Mark Gemstone.
There we go. It was like watching. I think Danny Webster was in my shot as I was videoing it, and you just see Webster just smiling and losing it. And you don't get a lot of emotion from Danny Webster, but watching him,
pretty funny.
He was the heel wrestler that cracked character in the promo cut last night. It was great.
Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, it is WTF What the Friday. Please leave your comments wherever, either on our YouTube page, Locked On Golden Knights, subscribe there as well, or, of course, on our Twitter handle at Locked On VGK. We thank everyone, especially our everydayers, for helping us to get along as we now are 5 days per week. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.